I remember just putting Kieran to bed, like just wrestling with that decision, like what am I doing? Like, is this a huge mistake? What I quickly learned, and I'm sure yourself as an entrepreneur, when you make the decision, it's go time.
That's Mark and Elizabeth McGarry, and this is the Powerful Ladies Podcast. Hey guys, I'm your host, Cara Duffy, and in this episode, I am so excited for you to hang out with Mark and Elizabeth McGarry. They are inspiring as individuals, both are on my favorite humans list, and together it seems their powers are magnified. From building their family, to designing their home, to creating businesses together, and collaborating on designing a life on their terms, this power couple is setting the example for how to blend everything together and create something bigger and more beautiful. Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you to come and join my Powerful Ladies Thrive membership. The best way to ensure you live your dream life is to have a community and a coach that will help you get there. And that's exactly what Thrive is for. Join us today. Go to powerfulladies.mn.co and jump into our twice weekly group coaching sessions to kickstart everything that matters to you and to transform your year. All month in February, we'll be discussing how you can discover your business love language and use that to create your ideal career and business that you can spend as much time as possible working in your zone of genius and aligned with your purpose. Hi, guys.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. Welcome to the Powerful Ladies Podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Well, I've invited all of my favorite power couples on. We're doing a segment. This might become a recurring series. I love power couples because I have forever. I would rip them out of my magazines and save them because I love both the romance of it, but also the fact that you're collaborating on so many things in life and seeing how it's working. So the fact that you guys are a real life power couple, I can't wait to ask you all my questions.
Powerful ladies and their sidekicks episode.
Well, let's begin. Please introduce yourselves and tell everybody what you're up to.
Go for it, McGarry.
No, ladies first. You go first.
I'm Elizabeth McGarry for your listeners, and I feel honored to be back because we had an awesome chat at the start of your new venture with this. So it's cool.
Episode number 1.
It's cool to be back with Mark. I'm Mrs. McGarry, and I'm a mom of 2 awesome boys, and a business owner and creative director, collaborator, daughter, wife, sister. Yeah, all of it.
All the things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
My name is Mark McGarry. I am Elizabeth's husband, father, entrepreneur, the CEO of York Athletics, and not so much involved in McGarry Sons, Elizabeth's design studio anymore, but years ago helped her kind of get that formalized and off the ground. I'm a surfer, skateboarder, meditator. Yeah.
Obsessive runner.
Yeah. I thought about after my run this morning, I feel like since the pandemic, I've been like Forrest Gump style, when he just keeps running and doesn't stop for a year. I feel like that's me since last March. The dojo shut down and running just kind of became my thing. So yeah, I've been doing lots of running.
We'll have to get you connected with Jesse and his Ragnar team. They have it keeps spreading. It was just the team, and now there's people in other states, and now everyone's trying to beat each other with how many miles they can do all the time.
Oh, cool.
It's
yeah. I'm in.
Jesse found running and hasn't turned back. And I'm sure you, it just became natural. And I'm like, what? If I had to just go run half marathon, I'd need to train for months. And he just runs one. I'm like, ugh, it's so frustrating. What I think is so fascinating about my story of knowing you guys is that Elizabeth and I worked together at Reebok. Then I left Reebok, went to Puma, where Mark was, and we're at a Christmas party, and Elizabeth shows up, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. It was a Puma Christmas party. I'm like, she must, have come with her friend, who I knew was, I think it was Vic's wife at the time.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I was like, huh. And then all of a sudden I saw you guys together and I was like, wait, is everyone dating someone else or in a relationship? So it's crazy to have the crossover, even switching brands, which also speaks to how incestuous those brands are. Whether if you're in footwear apparel in the sports space, it really is so much crossover. But it was one of those moments where I was like, the first time seeing you guys in the same room, I'm like, wait a second, what's happening here?
Some of my first friendships that I made here were the wives of Mark's coworkers. We kind of jokingly called ourselves the Wives Club, but at the same time, we all had jobs in the industry as well. They were all at Puma, all the guys, and we were at Reebok, Converse, New Balance, whatever. And that's our industry, right? We're going to definitely bump into each other.
For sure. Well, so when I call you guys a power couple, what do you guys think when I say that?
I feel like an imposter. I feel very humbled by your association of that. But it's also, to me, it was like a nice time to just kind of pause and reflect and say, like, yeah, you know what? Like, we've kicked some ass and we've done some cool things, and someone who we respect sees us that way. That's like humbling and very cool. So thank you.
Same, like very humbled. And we were chatting before this, like it's a cool opportunity to reflect, in the new year. And it's been a crazy ride, as partners in life, raising a family, starting two businesses together. And I feel like we've gotten to this point now where we've like found this balance and peace with everything, and our life feels, I don't know, I'd say like not as chaotic as it was, a couple of years ago. And it's an honor, and I think I'm also just really proud of where we're at and kind of the balance that we've found, after years of navigating together.
When you guys have had so many collaborations together, right? Whether it's your house or your family or just going out and like living your best lives, right? Like part of my power couple qualifications was like, who's really chasing after the life that's best for them and making sure that they're creating their path versus just being stuck on some other path that's taking them who knows where. Yeah. And I've always been so impressed at how first off, you guys have always prioritized your family and making sure that was working. And second, like you guys have been very intentional about like, what do we want? Yeah. Did that come naturally to you, or is that something you guys built over time together?
I think it's both, right? Like we have always, thankfully, we kind of got thrown into the deep end in the very beginning of our relationship with big things, you know what I mean? Like we were learning how to become parents as we were learning to fall in love with each other and being in a relationship. And
do you want to explain that to people who don't know that story?
That story to know, but
I was a kid.
So right at the time that Mark and I met through some mutual friends, what he didn't know was that I was actually working on becoming the foster parent to my biological nephew. And he was a baby, he was a baby, a 17 months old little guy. And I was embarking on this totally new journey of working towards motherhood. And Mark and I kind of had a little zingy moment of chemistry when we were out with some friends, where it was kind of like,
well, you had a boyfriend. Being the gentleman that I knew Elizabeth had a boyfriend at the time. I was dating someone but yeah, definitely had like little crush going.
For a few months.
For a little while. Yeah, but then there was this little magical moment one night we all went out and we just kind of, everyone was saying goodbye. We kind of made eye contact. And then it was just, that was it. It was like that moment of like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's on. We gotta figure this out.
One of those TV moments, right? Or movie moments.
You didn't know that the next morning I was getting on a plane
no idea.
to go to Georgia to go pick up my 17-month-old, he's 17 now, nephew. And I think that when I came back and I got settled in back at work and I had an email from Mark McGarry and I was just like, it was like butterflies and craziness. And it was just like such a crazy, wild journey from the very beginning because I was like so focused on not being a 20, typical, like what, 22-year-old that I was like 2 weeks prior. And I had broken up with that boyfriend because he wasn't going to be a part of this journey. That was very clear. So yeah, it was just sort of like this courtship, friendship, total admiration from the very beginning, but also like confronted with, we got to see each other in action in a lot of ways that I think we fell in love with each other maybe faster because of Mikhail's just being like
part of it.
Yeah.
Like love bubble.
Yeah. Well, you get to see each other probably stepping into both values that you shared and, commitments. And you get to really see what's inside of someone when you're kind of in that, diamond creation, getting crushed a bit by life phase and like having it all thrown at you at once.
Yeah. And I remember for me at the time, I was, you're going to have to help me with the years here. It's like 26, right? 25 or something. 25, obviously that age, I was so focused on my career. I was at Nike at the time, living with friends and, snowboarding, surfing my brains out in Oregon. So the last thing on my mind was, settling down and having a kid. And then I remember, just the first date we went on, sharing you ended up talking about our family and
like
our grandparents and, just so like value aligned. And then obviously when I met Mikhail, I just fell in love with him. And like, I think what accelerated everything for me was seeing how Elizabeth was with Mikhail, really mama bear instincts. And that was so attractive to me. And I think we were so respectful of one another, knowing how young we were, like knowing, we were just getting our careers going. We were so respectful of one another that I never honestly felt that like, holy shit, like she's turning me into a dad, like overnight. Like there was none of that. I was just choosing and loving spending time with Mikhail and Elizabeth. And my life up until that point, I feel like everything was accelerated. I started partying way too young in high school. I started, I traveled a ton. I was like, I think I was like feeling the benefits of like settling down a bit and that's like what I wanted. And it felt really good. So it just, I think the timing was good. As scary as it was, it
wasn't like the timing when all your friends are settling down and you're like, I guess we should do the same thing. It just was just meant to be. It was just meant to be. I can't explain it any other way other than that. I never believed in that much, but like taking on that commitment with Mikhail, it was just sort of like this turning point where all these really beautiful, right things started to happen in my life. And maybe it started before that too. I don't know, but it just felt like bigger, and meeting Mark was just a huge part of that. And there was something there too, like coming full circle to now, I feel like Mark and I were really similar in a way, like value aligned in terms of our family, our desires and our wants to be close to family, loving, nature and certain films and like that kind of stuff. But then we also had this real ambition and hustle and focus on our careers and had similar approaches to it, you know, I think willing to take some risks. And I kind of always knew that we would be a good partnership in a lot of ways. I just felt that early on.
Well, and speaking about that respect and partnership, you guys have been entrepreneurs at the same time, and you've also taken turns, right? Where like one person was holding down a corporate job while someone else took the risk. How did that come about, and how did you guys choose kind of who would go first or how to support each other? Like, how did those conversations go?
Yeah, I think it happened really organically, right? I mean, we both were doing like the big company thing. You know, I was at Puma working with you. Elizabeth was at Reebok. And then, I mean, I never thought Elizabeth would choose to, stay home when our second son was born, Kieran. I just never even planned on it, or we didn't talk about it that much. And I remember Elizabeth had this like great gig waiting for her at New Balance, and then Kieran was born, and like everything changed. She's like, I can't go back to work. Like, how could I leave this little dude with somebody else, you know? And then again, I was so, I just felt really fortunate that we were in a position to make a choice, right? Like, and Elizabeth, decided to stay home and take care of Kieran, and you know, holding down the fort at Puma. But then as soon as, you know, Elizabeth kind of found her groove with staying at home and holding down the home front, you know, she was getting hounded by, you know, companies to do their design and creative direction, and quickly saw this opportunity to freelance. And then, I mean, I think you were pretty careful about how you got into that, or you know, you didn't take it all on at once. You're like, hey, there's this huge opportunity to like work independently, and you know, like what could that look like? So it's cool. I mean, that's my memory of it. I'm sure there's more to it than that.
Well, I'm even going back even further now, because actually when Mark and I started dating, you had just left Xavier and Nike family, and you were starting your own company. And I remember thinking like, what 25-year-old guy is like starts his own consulting company, you know what I mean? And he was doing all these cool creative projects and working on like film and brand marketing kind of campaign stuff. And I already saw that kind of glimpse too in him, you know, from early, and I was working at Nike at the time. So actually like it started even way before that. I think just like you can just do that, you know, like you can take what you know and call people, you know, and tell them that you want to work with them. It's like, it's not that, you know, that's the great thing about being like young and naive too. You know, you're like, I of course I can do this. And then that evolved. Like without that experience, you wouldn't have gotten the job at Puma, which is what brought us to Boston from Portland eventually. And then, and like we used to always, like every time we'd go on a road trip together, like every weekend we go away and we drive to the beach, whatever. We would always, he was at Puma and I was at Reebok, and you know, the nature of a business, designers and PMs are like oil and water, like cats and dogs a little bit. But we always had this way of, we just were really confident that we could take these two sides of business that tend to, for whatever reason, like not gel. We always kind of had each other's backs. We always gave each other like the good career advice or work relationship advice, all that stuff. And I don't know, I think we started fantasizing about having an opportunity to do something together, to kind of put together the two pieces of the puzzle that we each good at. And
especially when the two of you were like top in your fields, right? Like you guys are experts in what you do. So like to have two experts come together, in my mind, I'm like, ooh, like what will they make next? Yeah,
it felt like that. It's like, I wish my PMs were like you know, designers. Like we always kind of like, wouldn't it be cool if we worked together? But when that, there's sort of like a decision point, and it wasn't easy to make because as a designer,
Yes.
you know, I was pregnant with Kieran, I was sitting out on a non-compete, and I'm like, I was really torn, you know, and I called my old mentor at Nike, and I said, look, am I ever going to get a job as a designer again if I take time off and stay home with my kids? And she was like, yes, you will. And like, you have to do that if that's what your heart's telling you to do. And she was absolutely right, you know. Started freelancing right away, and it was totally like in between feedings and like naps, and it was kind of crazy, but it started organically.
And then Mark, when you decided to make the leap from Puma, how did that come about? You know, how did you know that it was your turn again?
Yeah. And that was a very, very hard decision for me. I think, when our second son was born, I again, like, fortunate that we were able to make that choice. That's when I was promoted to head of lifestyle footwear at Puma. Like career wise, I was just in such a good place, really happy. There was a lot of transitions going on. A few years after that, you know, there was a bunch of transitions going on. You know, I had teams in Germany and London and Tokyo, and was like rotating the globe, and it was just killing me. Plane like every month, something that I appreciated so much, but after you know, a decade of that, and with kids at home, it was getting pretty tough. But seeing Elizabeth, you know, like getting busy with projects, and then some of her clients were reaching out to me like, hey, can we grab some lunch? Like, I'd love to get more your like brand building, brand strategy, business development advice, and it just was like this no brainer, like of seeing the opportunity, not saying it was, you know, an easy decision to like, you know, like kind of jump ship into starting a company together. But the opportunity was becoming really clear, and it was tough. You know, I was like looking at some great opportunities within Puma, but you know, some would require a move.
Yeah, we didn't want to upload.
And then it was kind of like that skateboarder inside of me, like, nobody tells me where to live. Or move. Like, hold on, you know, like, you're gonna, you know, move here for this job, like, Germany, but I didn't want to move my family there at the time. So yeah, that was a really hard decision. I remember the night I was putting Kieran to bed, when he was just a little guy, like kind of when I've already made the decision, and I was like, Mark, like, what the hell are you doing? You know, like, you have this great job, this stability. And because I think ultimately we were really feeling good about the stability we had built in our life and for our children. I remember just putting Kieran to bed, like just wrestling with that decision, you know, like, what am I doing? Like, is this a huge mistake? And what I quickly learned, and, you know, I'm sure yourself as an entrepreneur, and your listeners can relate to this, like, when you make the decision, it's go time. Like, there's no failing, or there's failing, but your behavior and your mindset just completely changes.
And you need it.
When you're
relying on it.
When you need to make it happen, like, you will make it happen. Like, if you have to trust, like, you learn to trust yourself in that way as you grow on that entrepreneur path. But at the beginning, it was so scary. But again, we were in a very fortunate position where we turned some of Elizabeth's existing clients, like, we increased the scope of work, like layering in this strategy component, and slowly, you know, that client list grew to a point where we could sustain ourselves with that business.
But within a year, we were making more than we had ever made, like combined salary, you know, like, we knew the opportunities were out there. It's scary when like,
you go through the self-doubt cycle of like, I see them, but are they there for me? And then,
but to paint a picture too, McGarry Sons, we had maybe 5 clients going on that I was juggling at the time. I was outsourcing a lot of work to other friends, designers, collaborators, and like, what I'm not that good at in terms of like some of the just Mark brought some polish and some organization and with that, the confidence, I think for some of these clients, like we're already working with McGarry Sons on the creative side, but what about this business marketing strategy side? I have ideas there, but I'm not going to by any means like lead the charge. And Mark gave that confidence. And so, it was like really quickly people were just sort of shifting, more and more responsibility to us as a team.
Yeah. I think too, I'm reflecting back on those tough decisions. And I would say though, I think we were really fortunate at that time to be surrounded by some friends of ours that had also built successful companies. Like, some of my homies from Portland had started like successful snowboard outerwear brands. Yeah. My friend Eric, who started his own agency. And, it was really speaking with those guys that you're just like, duh, like no brainer, dude. Like you guys got this, like we'd hire you to do this. Like it just, so that encouragement I think really helped. I think because we needed a little nudging to make that final decision.
We also always have this attitude that like nothing's permanent. And so the worst thing that can happen is that it doesn't work out. The worst thing that can happen.
We have to go get another job. Yeah.
And we're like, we are hireable. We know people. We have good experience. We still have a lot to give. So the worst case scenario is like, this isn't the thing and there's another thing. Yeah. The scariest thing is like having a mortgage and having 2 kids and all of a sudden needing to pay for your own health insurance and like all those things. Yeah. But yeah, when it has to happen, you make it happen. So that's what.
Yeah. I remember calling you, Mark, when I was still at DC. So like 2 years before I went off on my own and having that conversation of like, how did you know exactly when? What were you thinking? And like, you gave me this great advice, but I can still remember sitting in my office having that call with you because so many people are like, how do you know? And I think for most of us, we felt the poke of like, you should be doing something else way before we ever do it. And for people who are listening, they're like, practically, how do I do it? I mean, I just said, can I make it through 3 months? Like, what's my runway? Is it 3 months, 6 months? Do I have 9 months where I can pay for basic bills? Yes or no? Yeah. And one of the piece of advice that you gave me on that call was, how do you live as cheaply as possible so you can do more of what you want? And that's always stuck in my brain. I don't even know if you remember saying it, but
I'm going to take that. Say that to me now.
How to live as cheaply as possible to make all the things you want happen. Yeah.
We actually got this like really like pretty cheesy, but maybe we can put it in the show notes or something. And
yeah,
I shouldn't say cheesy. It actually was like useful, kind of just cheat sheet book on finances, like just getting your own personal finances in order. And it was great. Sort of like quick chapter and then like, here's your to-do list.
Yep.
We did all that. Like I gave this book to Mark and literally within like a month, we were smart about the timing of that. We had saved aggressively to have like a cushion, and our thing was like, what will make us feel like we're doing the right thing, that we're not being foolish. And so, like that 6 month cushion.
De-risk it. Everyone's different, right? Every individual is going to have like, what is a de-risked plan look like? And we, and I'll connect that back to your point of like every entrepreneur, I think, you have that inside of them. Like I started Mark's mowing service when I was 9 years old.
That's when I had my first business at 9.
Me too.
And and anyway, it's in you, and like that was, and like you have to listen to that, right? Like we both had really awesome careers, all of us, I guess, right? In like big company corporate land, and then awesome, check, that was great, learned a ton. Like now let's try this. Like always be evolving and like being open to that journey is really important. Yeah. And I think my de-risk at the time was we were going into this with existing clients, and so like that was there, and then like kind of maybe segue into York Athletics too. At the time, my now my co-founders, how that started was, you know, we were like dreaming up this vision together with Travis and Kyle York, my co-founders of the company now, and Elizabeth. Together, like dreaming up this vision for this D2C footwear brand, training footwear brand. And then, you know, that became a part of McGarry Sons too, where they brought us on and, you know, to figure out this white space and, you know, how could we carry on this third generation legacy footwear brand? So that was like a new project that we were super excited about. So that's when you know, like we just got to this point where like, oh, we got this, like, yeah, we got to figure out X, Y, and Z, but it's not like, I didn't feel like we were starting from like ground zero.
No,
and it was like, you know, Monday you have a job, Tuesday we're like, okay, now you don't. And what are we going to do? Like, and again, like acknowledging that that's like, what a great place to be. We had a choice, you know, and we had options, you know, that's before, obviously, you know.
Well, and I think it also does start with those small conversations, because I know that all of us have been called by a friend or someone who went to a different company or something else to be like, can I talk to you about something? It's that, you know, on my last podcast, we said the magic words were, wouldn't it be fun if, and how that becomes like the manifestation you weren't expecting. Like, wouldn't it be fun if we worked on a business together and then someday it happens? But I also think another one is, do you have 10 minutes? Like, it sounds so innocent, but do you have 10 minutes can literally end up creating your whole new path.
Yeah.
Because cool.
You went out to coffee or lunch with Travis York to talk about something else, actually. Yeah. And then he was kind of like, you know, we kind of have this thing that we've sort of been kicking around, you know, and when he kind of said, like, we have this family hair, it's just like this, can I just run this by you, you know? And then that has become like what, you know, what Mark's been building for the past 5 years. I'm
adding that. Can I run this by you into the incidental manifestation starters?
It's like this universal law in like entrepreneurship where like, you can't be on the edge of the cliff and these things happen. They won't happen. You have to jump off. Then the planets align. It's this like energy, because like I think you push yourself, you put yourself out there. And I remember Travis was building up his marketing agency at the time, and we were always connecting, you know, sharing talent, you know, back and forth, just making intros, and it was this nice, you know, friendship and like symbiotic relationship. And then lunch one day he mentioned the fact that his grandfather used to own this shoe manufacturing company in New Hampshire. I was like, what? Like,
one of those amazing relics? Yeah.
A week before, we literally, because, you know, with McGarry Sons, we were like, okay, like, we're based in New England. Like, this is where sportswear was born. Like, we got to find some dormant sportswear brands and resurrect them and turn them into digitally native brands. Like, we'd already dreamt that up.
Us brainstorming on what our dream projects would be, and then
you know, for Travis and his family, it was like, oh my god, like, this is an opportunity to do this. And then, you know, that's kind of how everything started. So
we just jumped on
it is that energy. I think like when you jump off the cliff, you commit to entrepreneurship, you've got to make it happen. Like, your behavior changes, and I think the energy you put out changes, and you know, you know, that's how you make stuff happen, right?
Well, and I think we don't realize, like, you know, it feels in that moment like we're jumping off a cliff and there's nothing there. But I do think those prior connections and moments are actually creating these like little steps across like whatever we're jumping into. And we don't realize that we actually maybe have that umbrella that's making it like we're not risking our lives. It feels like we are, but we're actually not when we look at all the options we had. I went to lunch with a friend of mine who had been running her own small business for like 5 years at the time. And I was like, should I do this? Should I not? Like, I really feel like I should do it right now. And she goes, okay, let's just make a list of 10 things that you could do to make money right now if you had to.
Yeah.
And the list included everything from like consult to get another job to drive Uber. Like it was like whatever we can make money doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I have like more than 8 things. Okay, I'll be fine.
Yeah, you
Like-
realize you're not as stuck as you.
It's our conditioning. Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
like how we're wired. And I think once you can, kind of break out of that thinking and rewire a little bit, especially now. So yeah, like I look at opportunities so differently now than I did like 5 years ago. Like I just see so many more opportunities. I actually feel like, like perhaps it's more risky to be at a big stable company these days than it is to be, steering your own ship. And I think, but I get it. I think a lot of, friends of ours that are, in high up positions at big companies, and it's like, you get that nice house, you got a family to look after, and there's that fear of like, I can't lose this. This is it. But then
you could have so much more.
Yeah, and just that there are other ways. Like there are other ways
you have to break ties
thrive
to
and
see it,
succeed. Like cut the cord to get there. So it's such an individual kind of thing for everybody, whether it makes sense or not.
When I left corporate design world, and as a senior design manager, I was working on the highest profile collaborations. I was directing the global team, all that stuff. It felt so important and like the only thing I could do at the time. And then when I left, and I had Kieran, and it was just like a little bit of space, a little bit of that time and space to kind of incubate. And I started freelancing, and then I started creating my own environment to work in. And then I started pulling in friends, and I was like, this light bulb just kind of hit me one day that there should be no such thing as a corporate design team. Like it just shouldn't exist. Like everyone should just like I'm going to build it. I'm going to create a space where designers can just be designers and be creative, and we can, we can do our jobs really well and be collaborative and work on your own schedule. Like the flexibility, the autonomy, the music at the volume you want. Just like all,
no cubicles. Yeah.
Little things, that made me feel like myself again. And then also just like being able to kind of embody that with my boys at my side and have them be a part of it, see it, literally called McGarry Sons.
Yeah.
McGarry Sons because sometimes my sons were with me, or we were having meetings at the house where it was sort of an inside joke, but then it was like,
wasn't there like a story where like it's like team from Korea came here and they like visited you at the house, and we had this black cat Jaws that would like sneak up behind you and like he just like claw into you.
Like all of a sudden you have claws in the back of your shoulder, and you're like,
I remember like, I had this like 5 people from Korea at the table here, like at our dining room table today, and Jaws like clawed one of them, like scared the shit out of him. And like, Kieran's sleeping in his little bassinet in the corner, so that was kind of like where that name came from, like all those little funny experiences,
But I think that ended up kind of being what the whole vibe was and what we brought to work. It was like we were able to create the structure and the process and the environment that we wanted. And, eventually we outgrew the house and we had our own studio space, but people always just felt like really renewed and refreshed. And that's one of the things I'm the most proud of. Like they would come into this space and just like leave all their baggage at the door, figurative and literal, and just kind of get embraced by, I think, again, our values got to come into play. We care about, we want to work with good people. We had like a zero asshole policy when it came to work, taking on projects. We're like, not with you, sorry. That's not going to work out. And just being able to integrate that and own it, and then like give that back to others and let that be something that, I think even the team we ended up building are gonna like now they have that and they're going off onto their like corporate rendezvous, and they're kind of like they know
it's important.
Yeah.
I think the phrase I hate now, or not hate, but strongly dislike and think is unnecessary, is work-life balance.
Yeah.
Anyone who's playing the game of how do I have work-life balance is asking the wrong question, I think. Because it's so much more about integrating and choosing what parts you want to make your life awesome. And as an entrepreneur, like there's no work and life are not different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be. Like, I think it's important to have breaks, of course, so we can pause and do everything else that we need to.
Digital detox and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Mark
but
has
it's really
been saying
different.
something lately, which I'm sure you could maybe say the quote where it came from, but just less doing, more being.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of become a mantra as of recently, and especially this past year with the quarantine and pandemic, and the boys have been home for almost a year now from school.
Which is crazy. Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
You never thought you'd have a home office with the two of you and the two boys, literally.
I know.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we still have the studio close by.
Yeah, that's become a little
escape. It's like a mental health studio at this point. Like, who needs to get out of the house?
Who wants to have a date night at the studio? Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's become even more important to understand that, work-life balance is not the thing. It's just creating the space and having the temperament that you want to be in and have all the time. And that's fluid,
Yeah, I think for me, my biggest learning there was as like an ambitious, like type A charger, like once you learn, like after practicing that over time, I think on your like entrepreneurial journey and like for me, my like meditation and Muay Thai, running, like, all that stuff starts working together and you start feeling the benefits. You realize that, integrating that all and balancing that out and staying focused on like what you're actually doing, you become like way more effective at your job. So like, it's funny, like be more, do less. You hear that, you're like, oh, it's like, I'm going to turn into a pile and not be successful. It's like, for me, my learning has been the actual opposite. Like the more focused I am, the more present I am, the better I am, a better leader. I'm focused on what I need to be focused on, at work and with the business, at home. Like it's been such a good learning. We have like a little sign downstairs to remind the boys every day too, that they get to choose, like, how do you want to be today?
Yeah.
Like you get to choose how you want to be, with everything in your life, with work, with school, with your friends, with your family. And that's been like a really good, cool lesson.
I one of my favorite words to be is dazzling. And I'm so much more effective on converting a client or having a great call or just making it work in my favor when I take that moment either at the beginning of the day or even before I go into something. And I'm like, okay, today I'm going to be dazzling and just let it go.
It's great.
And then it's like, it's working. And the first time I chose that word actually was when I was in Boston going in for a Converse interview. And it went so well. I'm like, damn, this word's powerful. All right, we're keeping that one.
Yeah.
That's you. Yeah. That's so natural.
Very natural.
You.
How do you mean?
You're dazzling.
You're dazzling energy.
Yeah.
I've always been putting that up.
I mean, like, I have to have a different word because that doesn't, that's not like my natural ability. But I come in doing like high kicks or something, way too much. But no, you have a very you bring out good energy in people. Like you emote.
Thank you.
And you're like a confidence booster, I think, for everyone in the room always.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Yeah, Kara, I remember, what do we call those? IPT meetings?
Yeah.
So, like the big global like strategy review, sneaker reviews. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but I remember like, we had our little, as we do, like little internal huddle, with the team before we go and, how we're going to accomplish our mission and what we got to focus on. And I just remember again, I don't remember like the topic, but I just remember you were sitting next to me and, just bringing such a positive energy and outlook on the conversation. And the team was dragging on something. And I don't know, I just remember like having you by my side being like, I'm so thankful for Kara's energy and just positive attitude. Like that's what was required at the time. And as you know, like some of those meetings can be beat downs and really tough. And
especially when they go until midnight.
Yeah. And it's a choice, right? So like, how do we want to be, like as the product team for this global company?
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so yeah, tie that back to your dazzling
thank you
and energy because it comes very naturally.
I feel so lucky to have been part of that group. And I don't know what it was about like that class of Puma. And I don't know if it's happened before or after, but
the same way.
I feel so blessed to have been put in that mix with those people. Like I remember my first week at Puma was in IPT in the Boston office before I had moved to Germany. And it was like, show up at 9 a.m. I didn't leave till midnight the first day. And that was the whole week. And I remember looking around being like, I am not good enough to be here. Like that was my thought that week. I was like, I need to get my shit together and real fast. And it was like, but it wasn't because I felt, it was not just like the level of skills people had or the conversations we were having. It was just having like the whole room was A people. And I was like, I never want to be in a room that's not full of A people ever again.
Yeah, it was
mm-hmm.
the A team,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just the complexion of that team, right? And for your listeners, so just think like global footwear business, there's like your performance categories, there's your lifestyle categories. And then, this team was like the product strategy for the company.
Mm-hmm.
So, there were like a lot of heavy hitters in the room, but just the personalities were amazing. Like Louis Joseph. I mean, that's where I met Noah.
Yeah.
And we all came from such different backgrounds, right? Like I came out of the skate world and action sports, and Noah was this like professional runner from Texas, and
right.
And then for me when I joined Puma, that opened my whole world up to like this international business and traveling the world. And anyway, I feel the same way. I learned so much from that time, and I really like miss everybody from that time. I just got a text. I saw that like Yoshi is moving back to Japan. I like the other day I got a note from Yoshi and just was kind of reminiscing on that time at Puma too. Just lots of good people, and I felt like I grew so much in my career because of that.
Yeah, it was. They talk about like how there's some companies that give you like a bonus MBA, and I feel like that's what that was. Like I would go to Puma school again instead of ever like, I really like the MBA I have, but it did not prepare you for like the intensity of what could be created and how many opportunities there were. Like it was a whole dial change.
Yeah.
And when I look at how many people in that group now have their own thing, it's a shocking percentage.
Yeah.
Like I think it's abnormal, and there should probably be a Harvard Business Review of like that group. Because it's not normal. It's not normal to have it happening like that. And so it's very interesting. But I know, Mark, you and I caught up the other day, and you were talking a lot about how meditation and Buddhism has really changed your perspective of yourself and leadership in the past couple of years. How did that come about, and how is that filtered into all areas of your life?
Yeah. I'll try to keep this one short. It started when I was at Puma and I was promoted into the head of lifestyle position. It was a very hefty role for me. I was traveling a lot. Kieran was born, like all good stuff. Like I was on cloud nine. I used to meet my buddy Sean on the outside here on the corner down the street at like 5:30 a.m. every morning. We would meet up and go for a run together. And Sean was a doctor. A good friend of mine. And I remember at the time I was having like some stomach, like little nausea symptoms, nothing like crazy, but I went to my doctor and they're like, oh, you're overproducing acid. And I was like, okay, like took like some proton pump prohibitors or whatever they're called.
Take a tablet. Here's a pill.
And he was like, so then, Shad's like, dude, he's like, that's stress. And I was like, I'm not stressed though. I feel good, dude. He's like, dude, I know you and you internalize. But that's just stress that's causing some, wreaking havoc on your stomach or whatever. And he was like, and I have so much respect for him as a father, as a friend, a husband, doctor. He was like, have you ever tried meditation? And, I was like, whoa, no, like definitely like super skeptical. But at the time, Elizabeth bought me a book called Saltwater Buddha. And that's kind of, surfing's been my link to meditation and yoga. Like if surfers do it, I'm like, okay, I'm open to it. If Jerry Lopez does yoga, like I'll try it, So like surfing was kind of like the conduit, that connected me to that world. And anyway, I signed up for a meditation class at the Henry Benson Institute. It's like a Harvard and MGH program where they just teach you the basics of meditation, but they really get into the science and the physiology of like actually what it does to your body. And I think that's what I needed. Like I needed that science backed. Here's the benefit. Like here's why you do it and what it does to your body.
You need a meditation, but in a type A kind of way.
Yeah. And
I totally understand.
Seriously, I did all my homework. I was loving it.
Best student.
And then sure enough, like 2 weeks later, after meditating every day, for like 5-10 minutes, like nothing crazy, all my stomach symptoms went away. Just and I think that was my first like mind body experience. That I tried. It worked. I wasn't reading about it in a book. It worked on me, and that's why I became a believer in that practice. And it just set me on this whole path of like, I just wanted more. I wanted to learn more about, we go to the gym and we run and we work so hard on our bodies to be physically healthy, but what are we doing to manage our mind for our mental health? That's just set me on this whole like meditation, secular Buddhism. Secular Buddhism, for your listeners, is kind of like the practice of Buddhism without the religious, kind of portion of it. So just, meditation training, mindfulness, just being present and not getting tugged around by your thoughts and your emotions all the time. That kind of set me on that path, and it proved to be really useful and skillful to have that practice with me on this entrepreneurship journey. That more than anything is probably what I've drawn on for strength and clarity. It's kind of kept me sane through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and life. I mean, people always like, I think sometimes focus too much on their career side of things, but life's sending blows left and right too, right? It's like tying that back to just the work-life balance, right? It's all interconnected. We're all like kind of sharing a very similar experience, in this world together.
I just got certified as a psychotherapeutic yoga teacher, and it is the yoga for type A people because it's the only yoga that layers in psychology and neurobiology. So you see the science. And it's the only one that exists in the world. A client of mine created it, and I had the opportunity to go through the program, and I'm obsessed. Like,
that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I recommend it to anyone because to me, it's really just human optimization, right? Like that's one of my personal motivators is like, what's next? Like, what else can we try out? Like, how else do we do it? And it's such a cool program. I never expected to get so much out of it because I was like, it's just yoga teacher training. And then literally I've used something every week we were in it and since either with clients or for myself. And just the fact there's even a mind diet out there. There's so many people get nervous about losing our mental capacity as we age, and knowing that there's a diet to prevent that, which is actually much easier to follow than so many other diets that are out there. Like you're allowed red wine on this diet. And I was like, oh, interesting.
I think a big motivator for me too, just with COVID and all this stuff. And, we constantly like talk about just putting everything into practice for our boys too, like just leading by example. And I think, with the amount of time kids are spending on screens and with like the pandemic, like I'm super insecure as like a father with that. Like, I just want my boys to be outside, like doing what I was doing growing up and, but they can't be connecting with their friends in that way now in the physical world. And anyway, so I think with just, where things are at in the world, like this practice of mindfulness and just this mindset training is actually like really important for people to raise. And I really I think the world would be a better place if people, could step back and just, put this into practice a little bit and realize that we're all sharing a very similar experience in life, but we're oftentimes just so caught up in running and our own ego and protecting ourselves and acting out of fear that it just, at some point we got to like kind of evolve beyond that, and it's that's why I think you see it spreading too. I mean, yoga practice, meditation, mindfulness, like, because I think there's an appetite for it, and it's cool. It's growing, and I love that. It's cool to be a part of that,
And I never thought that mindfulness meditation was part of a yoga practice to the depth that it is until I took the training. To me, they were like 3 separate buckets. And I'm like, oh, this is actually all in the same space.
It's actually, I mean, I think I remember getting Mark that book because I heard the author, Saltwater Buddha, the author was being interviewed on NPR or something like that. And I've always been a little more woo-woo than Mark as like a baseline. But I was like, oh, this will be the gateway because it's like, he was a surfer. He like ran away from home and is a teenager and partied really hard. And he like found, he found himself through this practice, but it had to be kind of introduced to him through the lifestyle of surfing and the act of surfing. So anyway, when Mark started taking that class though, I think you were maybe in week 3 or week 4, and I was seeing such a dramatic transformation in his mindset and in his mood and everything, and then also like just the physical things. And I think it's easy as a person whose baseline runs a little more like I'm not as type A, like I'm a little all over the place all the time, but kind of mellow in general. But I would like hit my wall of stress. It would just like, I get like pneumonia for 2 weeks or every year, like, so I signed up to take it soon after, because I remember thinking like, you have, as a couple, and we evolve, we're like constantly evolving if we're doing life right, and to constantly evolve in the same direction as your partner is a challenge for any marriage, any partnership. So we practice in different ways, but we're on the same page and we have the same dialogue, and we are able to, impart that on the boys. But I remember after that class, I was like, every human should just have to take this class. We had offered it up to our team at work. We're like, we'll pay for it, because it's just life skills that it's like you wish, everyone does have the opportunity to, be exposed to it. So I think even through York Athletics, just like using the platform you have to be that and have that education kind of component to.
Well, I love the idea of the two of you kind of building off of each other and how you're growing, and how do you then translate that? Even that share, you're like both for the boys and for your work. Like the fact that you guys want to be helping other people elevate and have their best lives too. I think also speaks to what it means to be a power couple, right? It's not power couple as like Wolf of Wall Street. It really is a power couple of like, how do we let people be their best, brightest light versus anything else?
Yeah. And I think it's like a life stage thing too. I think a lot of people, I don't know, you get into like your 30s and your 40s, you start thinking more about like what is success? Like, is making more money and, there's like acquisition in that way, or, then, for us, and everybody's different. And it's, that's what's great about the world we live in. Everyone can define that differently, but, for us, and thankfully feeling very aligned, it's peace of mind, and it's time, like time with our family, like free time. Like we want to enjoy our time together and with the boys. And I like using the term, and we use this on our team too, like these entities that we create, whether it's McGarry Sons or York Athletics, like they're freedom vehicles for all of us.
Yes.
Like, what do you want to get out of it? And how do we make sure that happens? And I know for myself and the team at York Athletics, everybody shares this quality of just being very independent, like having the autonomy. Tammy, who our marketing director, like, she's going out to the desert for a month, this winter, like that's, and working remote from out there because she loves to get out of, New England weather in the winter. So it feels good, to be able to like provide that and kind of just promote that, mentality with the team. Because that's what it's all about with entrepreneurship and kind of doing your own thing. You gotta, like, why are you doing it? And
I think we very much know that when we lost Mark's father this summer, and when you've worked with my mom too on her goals. She has metastatic breast cancer, and I think when maybe it is a life stage thing, you get confronted with mortality, and either be from your own health issues or scares, or people close to you. And I think you kind of realize that when that day comes, no one's really talking about your successes at work, and so so much of what we shared with Bill, with Mark's dad at his memorial, was just so much about his humor and his willingness to just do anything for a laugh, always be there for his family. Like, it was his pride and joy. And like we get to use that. It's like our motivation. And
none of that. There wasn't a mention of like career success. Like it was just really obvious, right? Like, it was his sense of humor, his sense of adventure. And then I look at, the adventurous life I've lived, and you see it living in myself, Elizabeth, our boys. And you're like, that's the good stuff, like that's what matters, and it's funny. I like that balance, because like, I know that about myself. I know that about our family and our values, but I don't forget there's that ambition. Like, I'm super ambitious, and that is me. Like, that's my authentic self too. But it's just good to like have an awareness of that and better integrate those together in a way that works for you, But in the past, like before I get into the whole like meditation thing, like I'll never forget, Elizabeth asked me, I don't know, we were just sitting around one day, and she, because I was like, okay, I'm just got promoted to this, and like my next step is going to be the president of footwear. And then she's like, and then what? And then what? And then what? And I'm like, what are you like making fun of me? And she's like, are you ever going to be happy and content? It was the first time. And I was happy. Because
it wasn't the ambition. It was
it's like the contentment.
The waiting for the next thing to be, to feel like you've done a good job. And, that's something you had to learn.
It was the first time it had ever like specifically been kind of called out with concern and love and care, I was like, oh, okay. Like, and I don't know, I grew up a competitive person, in the skate world that we came out of. It was very competitive, but I love that. Like, it's fun, and I enjoy it, and I still embrace that on a daily basis. But, it was cool. I'm very thankful, because I feel like that day, maybe that was the day you gave me that book.
Because I've always been like,
I just remember that
journey,
conversation.
man. It's not. It's like, you got to enjoy the process of getting from A to B, not just waiting to get to B.
Yeah.
And that's where Mark and I are like yin and yang, because also without Mark, like I'll never make it to be, because I'm like, like this is nice, and I'll go off on my tangent. So we've always we flip flop and yin and yang kind of each other. So
yeah, you help each other be the best versions of yourselves, right?
Yeah, it's like slow down and let's go. We can do it.
Yeah. A little bit faster right now, please. Mm-hmm.
Someone's always got one hand on the throttle, like up, down.
When you guys look at some key practices that you have in place to prioritize your personal connections, like I know you guys do date nights quite a bit. Is there anything else that you guys have kind of made as commitments to yourself, your family? Like these are non-negotiables.
Yeah.
That you're willing to share.
The ones that come to mind are dinner together as a family every night, non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. And usually we have this nice practice of sharing, gratitude with each other, or the 4 L's. I like that one.
That one's
I wish
fun.
I could give credit. I got this from some podcast I listened to. I don't remember who it came from, but to share something you learned that day. Mm-hmm. Share a laugh that you had from the day. Love.
Yeah.
Share
something you loved, or when you felt loved.
Or felt loved. And then what's the 4th one?
Laugh, learn, love, and labor.
Labor, like what you worked hard on. Mm-hmm. So that's been like a nice little ritual. I love our little date night, Friday night, like pandemic date nights has been fun, because we'll just like order pizza for the boys, and we'll get dressed up and order out, and we take turns each week kind of designing the date night, making the plans.
Initially it sort of started as like we wanted to support the restaurants in our neighborhood, at the start of the pandemic, and we kind of jumped on that, and we're like, let's like set the table like if we were out to eat, and light the candles, and we kind of had fun with it. So we've been keeping that up, and it's been important.
And getting outside, I mean, that's a huge one. Where like it's our job every weekend. Like I just went snowboarding with the boys yesterday. If we're not doing that, we'll go just on like a nature walk, fishing, going to the beach. We've had access to a boat here and around the Boston Harbor Islands last 2 summers. So yeah, we're outside a ton, and I think because we live in the city, like we just work extra hard to make sure that we're all getting out as much as we should and can.
Yeah, you can't really take advantage of, the museums are shut down again, like all the things that make living in the city awesome, and all our neighborhood joints and stuff. But yeah, I think non-negotiable for me has been, and this has been especially tricky with but important as we're working from home now, is Kieran is 10 and he still like wants our attention for things. And so, when he wants us, like when he's like, Mom, will you watch this with me? Or will you tuck me in? It's like non-negotiable. Yes, of course, yes. Like, so just like when my kids want my attention, I'm pretty committed now to just always giving it to them, because whatever I've got is like, it'll get done.
We have one
later.
leaving the house in a year. So
yeah, Mikhail's going to be graduating high school this year.
That's so crazy.
I know. You met him when he was a little dude.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, over 11 years ago.
Crazy, right?
When he was giving out his rocks at dinner. Like, I'll never forget that first story of like, that's how I was introduced to Mikhail.
He's still that thoughtful, it's cool. I've also been doing a Zoom call with my family. There's 5 of us kids. We live all across the US, like every corner. And every Thursday night since the start of the pandemic, we've been having a family Zoom call. And not everyone always calls in, but it's like someone, at least half of us are always there. And that the boys know. It's like, I'm not making dinner that night,
Yeah.
I'm busy. And that feels really good because we never really saw each other or talked on the phone or really connected beforehand. But it's been cool as an adult to reconnect with my family in that way.
There really have been so many cool things to take out of what 2020 has been. I think both feeling for the first time in a long time how big the world actually is, because we, especially with our travel schedules and everything else, we got so good at making it feel like, oh, it's no big deal. I'll be back in 2 days from pick the place, which most people would take 10 days to go to. And having to figure out, like, how do we connect with people still? How do we stay in our either block bubble or house bubble and really still make the things happen that we want to? So I think between that and knowing that we can create these global teams and work and be wherever we want, like, I hope those things stay so we can then layer on the actual real interactive experiences.
Yeah, I think they will. I think everyone's sort of seeing the huge benefits in that.
Yeah. Well, for everyone who is now as in love with you guys as I am and wants to support you and what you're up to and be able to connect, how can they do that and where should they find you?
For me, I'm on Instagram. McGarry Sons is my work handle, and that's public. And, it's been interesting, I think, during this time. I've got some cool new projects to be launching soon, brands, but I try to post, behind the scenes, and just a good place to connect and share other people's work. And then, the website as well. But really, Instagram's the best place to connect with me there.
Yeah, I'm lagging on the personal Instagram tip.
You've got to learn to surf. That's good.
Yeah. Well, am I going to announce that here on this page? No, yeah. So for me, York Athletics, mfg.com is our training footwear brand. On Instagram, it's York Athletics MFG, and I think I think your listeners can see a lot of this mindset, coming through the messaging and the creative of York Athletics and the what the team's putting out there. It's official now. I'll talk about the idea behind Learn to Surf. Kara's helping me figure out what that is at the moment, but I
was so honored to be tagged with Elizabeth on that. I was like, it was a shining moment for my week.
All right. I feel like you were trying to close. Now I'm going to open up a whole other worms here. I've been recently diagnosed with thyroid cancer and have a surgery coming up that is, I haven't been sweating it too much. We have a good head on about it. Been learning, thankfully. It's a cancer that, surgery is usually the, kind of what does it. So obviously, processing that, this year has been a challenge, but I created Learn to Surf or underscore Learn to Surf as a little Instagram page and handle to help me kind of process that, but also share some of these learnings that we've talked about today with meditation, mindfulness training, and I'm putting it into practice every day. I'm really trying to lead by example for my family and my coworkers and my friends. And then that was an effort to share that, with just a larger group. And I always get, it's nice whenever there was like a little nod to that in my own personal Instagram. Like I'd always get comments from friends like, hey man, like that one hit, like give me more. And so It's been cool. It's like mellow, just friends encouraging me to do that. And it's been fun, just like a fun little side project.
I'm super excited about it. Like, we talked for, I think, 30 minutes about it.
Yeah.
And my head keeps going about like, oh, and then someday this and someday that. Like, I can't turn off what could be next. Yeah. And as you and I talked about, it really is about how do you create that phase where you can like, just let it be what it's supposed to be. And it's a big thing I'm taking on this year, right? Like we're leveling up every part of my business or all of the businesses. And I'm committed to only leveling up like each part at a time. Mm-hmm. Even bringing the video aspect of these podcasts to YouTube, the videos won't actually launch until March, but we're recording them all now so we can like have them ready, actually take time to figure out the format and the production, all the other things that go into it. Could I rush it and have it ready for Wednesday? Of course.
Right.
Does that align with what I'm doing? No.
Right. Knowing that is good, right? And like Mark said, just has been saying a lot more recently, I think, is it fun?
Yes.
Like you're enjoying it. And if you're not, then maybe question why you're doing it. And
yeah, or you can teach yourself to have fun doing it. I think that's like this choice that we have every day,
Yeah. This whole month in the Powerful Ladies Thrive group is all about how to organize your business to double your sales or whatever you want to achieve. And the first stuff we're talking about is, what do we eliminate?
Yeah.
Because it really is about like, okay, I'm not going to care about this or this or this, because the things we want to achieve are so great, but which ones are the ones that we actually want that align with how we're curating our life versus just the things that somebody else told us to do.
Yeah. Creating your own priorities and then creating time and space to honor that has been a huge learning for me personally, that, is, I wish I had that in my repertoire 15 years ago, but I feel like it's just developing in the last couple of years.
I feel like, Kara, I feel like I mentioned this on our call, or maybe I didn't, but I was talking recently about this, about like just every day, like I always have I have 3 priorities. You have your like gazillion things to do, but I have 3 priorities, and I'll always try to like get those done by noon. That's like my thing. Like in the morning when your brain is fresh, like focus on those needle moving priorities, and leave your afternoon to for some meetings and catching up or whatever. But I get into the habit too of like sometimes too like answering, or when someone calls me out of the blue, if it's not a priority, I found myself even telling them in a very kind way that this is not a priority for me right now, and like how powerful that was, and how surprised and shocked people are, I think, to hear like, this is not a priority, but like, I think also just appreciate the honesty. And I don't know, for your entrepreneurs out there and hustlers running their own business, like, I think that is just a game changer, just knowing what's going to move the needle. And just stay true to that on a daily basis, and don't get caught up in all the other 26 things that, you think you need to do. It's not about productivity in that way. It's about, putting that energy where it matters. That's what's going to make a difference.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's a great way to wrap up today. But it's been such an honor to have you guys in my life, but also to have you now on the podcast together. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Kara.
Thanks so much.
It means so much to us. We got your email. We were both a little like overwhelmed and just really honored.
So proud of what you've built, and it's been awesome to partner with you on this journey. I forgot about the old Reebok days too. You guys used to work together at Reebok. I love it.
Yep. It all just keeps coming back around, right? We're keeping all the good people.
Exactly.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. All of the links to connect with Mark, Elizabeth, York Athletics, McGarry Sons, and more are in our show notes at thepowerfulladies.com/podcast. There you can also leave comments and ask any questions about this episode. Want more Powerful Ladies? Come and join us on Instagram at Powerful Ladies, where you can also find some free downloads to start being powerful today. Subscribe to this podcast and help us connect with more listeners by leaving us a 5-star rating and a review. If you're looking to connect directly with me, please visit karaduffy.com. I'd like to thank our producer, composer, audio engineer, Jordan Duffy. Without her, none of this would be possible. You can follow her on Instagram at Jordan K. Duffy. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, I hope you're taking on being powerful in your life. Go be awesome and up to something you love.